Conversations. Today, I'm here with Patrick Malloy, and we're going to explore learning a new front end framework. The framework of choice is Svelte JS. Some that I've only looked into briefly. So this is kind of like how I approach learning a new framework in real life. So hopefully this will help everybody out. How long have you been using Svelte JS?
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have never used it.
Never used it. Okay.
Never, not once.
How do you usually approach like starting to learn a new framework? Like, what is your strategy?
So, and just for those that don't know me, which is pretty much everyone. I'm a junior developer. Went to a boot camp, graduated from that, and I have about 3 months experience on the job now. Um, so there's that. But as far as learning a new language or a new framework, I guess it's like spending a week or two to just get, you know, in the ecosystem in terms of learning the context of like, why is it used? Was it good for? Um, like I have to learn C# for work, and the first, little bit we went over was, why it was created. It was created for Java developers and C++ developers. So knowing the context and why it has this place is important. And then after that, it's just, recreating what you can already do in say JavaScript in C#. Uh, but in this case, it would be like if everyone here on the call is proficient with React, we would try to recreate something we know how to do in Svelte, I guess, but like taking baby steps. At least that's how I would do it.
Right. So yeah, like typically what I do is obviously you're gonna have to go through the installation instructions, and after that, I like to briefly read the documents a little bit, and then typically I like to find like a sample project that's already out there, and then install that on my machine. I like to go through it step by step and kind of see how they're using it in kind of a real world scenario, and any portions that I don't understand, that's really where I start focusing my learning. And I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of realized that most front end frameworks, they pretty much do the same things, maybe with just slightly different syntax, or they use like slightly different libraries. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna install everything to my machine. So npm create.
I feel like another thing is like they pretty much all do the same thing, these front end frameworks, but then it's like the data flow may be different. So it's
Hmm.
like in React, you have two-way data flow. You can go parent to child, child to parent. And then I'm learning Vue at work as well. So it's like you can do that in Vue, but it's more restricted. So it encourages a one-way data flow, which makes things a lot better in this. Like especially if you don't know what you're doing, like me, because it's like again, I'm really green, really new to that framework in particular. So it's like you have to do what's called an emit. You send that function backwards. So it's like very intentional. Like you know that you're doing it a certain way instead of just with
Hmm.
React where you can just pass a function here and pass props there and just that and the third. Not dissing React at all. I love React. But I do like the fact that you, with that specific data flow in Vue, for example, you have to be more intentional with what you're doing. So
Right.
that so it's like they do the same things, and obviously there are differences, and it's like understanding those differences is like critical. Going back to like what I was saying about, I mean, what's your opinion on this? It's like, do all these frameworks really have a place in the market, or is it really just people chasing after the latest and greatest new thing?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mixture because the reality is a lot of these companies are just making new frameworks, I guess, to gain traction. Like
Hmm.
JavaScript is something new coming out every other week,
Yeah.
but it's some of them do things a little bit better. Like Svelte is like a lot faster than the other frameworks since it's compiled versus I guess interpreted in the browser like the other frameworks. Like it doesn't have a virtual DOM,
No.
so this actually brings something different to the table. But React, Vue, and Angular are pretty similar. but like maybe Angular comes with more outside of the box, and React is more flexible. And I haven't really used Vue. I've heard it's kind of like a mixture between the two.
Yeah, I haven't used Angular, but that's pretty much what I've heard about it. It comes with more outside the box, and it uses TypeScript exclusively, which I like using
Yeah,
TypeScript. The more I work with a strong typed language, the more, or a statically typed language, the more I prefer working with types, just because it makes things a lot easier. I'd rather have a compile time error than a runtime error, personally. Um,
exactly.
so that's kind of encouraged, but or TypeScript, encourages that trend.
You kind of it's self-documenting as well. Like if you have to define the type of everything, like what type is this parameter, this function, it makes it a lot easier for you and the person coming after you to know what's going in and out of the application. That's pretty much why I can't just go back to using plain JavaScript.
Yeah. Also, if you don't know what type you're working with, you may not, you may have some trouble down the road. It's like going into it blind kind of thing, like where a string should be an integer or a number, I guess, other way around. It's like that will definitely cause some issues. Ah, look at that.
So here's the basic app. Let's see. It looks like it got some routing here.
So Svelte.
And let me open this project. So yeah, typically when you start with new projects, you kind of want to take a look at the package.json because it's going to tell you everything that's in this project. So TypeScript, I guess it's some kind of library or something. So yeah, this is all pretty lightweight. There's not a whole bunch of external dependencies. I'm not sure if there's a built-in HTTP library, but if not, we will use something like Axios or one of those, or the Fetch API. So let's start with the source folder, app.html, style, display, contents, feltkit.body. So I'm guessing this is like the root component that the components get mounted on.
Yeah. So it's got the head, or SvelteKit.head, SvelteKit.body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Looks like
interesting the use of the percentage signs.
Yeah, I know. A lot of times they use the brackets.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just comment this out and see what happens. I'm pretty sure this all going to disappear. Like, oh, okay. I think since this is compiled, we have to. I don't know if they have like a watch mode.
Like a hot reload.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It says page reload right here. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
So that took everything off the screen. So see what happens if we put this twice. Break this with a HR. So yeah, the one thing about this is does seem a little bit slower in hot reloading compared to Angular and React. I guess because of the need for everything to recompile.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because like when you make a change in React, it only changes that one component because it uses the virtual DOM.
Mm. So yeah, what it looks like is I guess it finds the first component with SvelteKit.body and it mounts to that component, then it just ignores the other one. So you can kind of see this down here.
I wonder if it has the possibility, because I know you can do like in React, you have the source, or not the source. What is it? It's like you have the app, and then that goes into. I haven't worked in React in months, but you can have like two app components within the root. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm drawing a blank here, but I imagine you can do something similar here. You would just have to wrap it in like a fragment or something or that equivalent. But that is interesting.
Yeah, I think what happens is it looks for this and it mounts everything into this, and then once you're inside of this, that's where you can start actually using components. So you see, they got the head right here.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, let's take a look inside of the actual content. Lib routes.
Maybe
Hmm.
Svelte kit at the top.
Okay, generated types, ambient, config,
But
client, maybe.
ah,
Export const dictionary, handle error, root dot svelte.
what about right under app.html? It's got static, that folder.
Let's see.
Nah. Hmm.
Robust that text. It looks like they're in these little JS
Oh,
store
interesting.
routes. Page dot svelte. Where's that at? Okay, okay, they got everything under routes. That's what this is. Okay,
Interesting. And
yeah.
you're
This.
go ahead.
Oh yeah, this is the actual code here. So everything seems to be under routes. I
I was
think
just
we
about to
probably.
ask if there's a syntax highlighter, but it looks like it
Mhm.
came up. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we need to probably install some kind of plug-in so it doesn't look like this. Let's see.
might as well use what I call Notepad minus minus, which is essentially just regular Notepad. I refer to it at work as Notepad minus minus because it's ain't got a whole lot. It's very lightweight.
Let's see. So here's the language module. And here's the IntelliSense
Oh, you gotta have that.
auto import.
I wonder if the
Let's see
IntelliSense
what
comes
this
with like
looks like.
Emmet shortcuts.
Mm, let's see. So yeah, I think that this did change. So that plugin didn't do something.
Nice.
And let me just put something on the screen here. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
So it seems like once you edit the actual components, it updates way faster.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like almost instantaneous.
Can you do like a
Wow.
side by side to see how fast it is?
Yeah, let me
Making more work for you. I think the folder
so
structure is interesting. Like it's a lot different
yeah,
than what I was expecting.
exactly. So I'm about to say, yeah, that's almost instantaneous. You see that?
Yeah, hot reload. There you go. That's like
So,
it's about as hot of a reload as it gets.
so I'm about to hit the save button right now. Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, this
And
is
it
extreme.
compiles. That's fascinating.
Wow, that is extremely fast. So see, okay, so this is pretty much similar to React. You just import the component in here. I guess each component is like self-contained because the styling is here, template is
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so this
Uh,
is kind of like what Vue looks like. So you have like your different sections where it's like you have your template, which is in this case section. You have your style, same thing as in Vue. So it's all the idea is that it's all on one page. So I guess Svelte um, does the exact same thing, which is really cool. I also see like a Svelte colon head.
oh yeah, I think this injects this stuff in the header. Let's see, like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they
yeah.
come to this route, put this in the header.
Okay.
So let's try this out. So
Oof, didn't like that. Or maybe the name has to match the name of the route.
let's see. I could, okay, yeah, yeah.
Never
It does
mind.
just change the title right here.
Don't
Okay.
don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Svelte demo app meta name description. Okay, typical header stuff. So this looks like where they're putting the state at inside of this WebP file.
Okay.
So let's go inside of here and see. Okay. This is interesting. Some TypeScript file. Import welcome from lib images. So welcome.webp. Okay, counter from counter dot. Yeah, let's see what's in here.
So this is the counter component.
Yep. Sometimes if you kind of want to see things like how things are broken up, you could just do something like you put like an HR. Let's see. Begin. It's kind of like how I see where like the beginning and the ending of these components are. Let me take this.
I just make the background like red or something.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Which it's not as pretty as what you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
So I like your idea. I like your way better.
So sometimes if I want to kind of see like how everything, the boundaries around everything, I just create like a rule and then do the all, then border 1px dashed gray.
Oh, I like that.
So you kind of see like where everything begins and ends.
I like that.
So let's see how is this getting this state here. Okay.
That rule that you made in the, I guess the dev tools, does that stay after you refresh it?
No, every time you refresh, it just gets cleared out.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much a really quick way if you just want to test making any changes. You just come over here and have you used this a lot, like editing these kind of rules?
Absolutely, yeah. Like if just to see, like especially if I'm using like some kind of thing like SAS or like if everything's nested, I'm like, okay, I'm getting lost in all this. I just need to change one thing and see if it works. Um, like my go-to thing is adding like the 1 pixel border of red
Okay,
around
yeah.
something, just to make sure it's like the right thing I'm working with. Um, it's like debugging, just like tweaking those little values in there, and then transferring them into, or taking what was changed in I don't even know, I guess the DevTools elements styling or what have you, and putting those changes in the IDE. It's somehow different than doing it straight in the IDE, and it works. It works sometimes.
And have you used the computer tab any? I usually
I
use this thing.
love the computer tab. Oh my
Yeah,
god, especially for colors, because I don't
right.
necessarily, yeah, because it's like I don't want to have to, like on Mac you have the I forgot what it's called, but it's like a little eyedrop thing, and you can like get down to the pixel and get the color code. But sometimes you'll deal with like you may be like in a drop shadow, and you'll get
Mhm.
like a darker version of that color. Yeah, I was working on a clone for a Capital One application I used to support, and I just did the computed color, and it looked just like it. And for the color, the rest of it, not so much. But I'm still learning. Yeah, no, compute is great. It's like if
And
something is supposed to be flex and it's not, you can see, for example.
exactly. And have you ever used like force state? This is kind of like how you can force a node to be on the hover state without actually having to hover your mouse over it.
I've only done it for focus. I haven't done it for anything else.
Okay.
But I didn't even
And
think of. Yeah, that's a good one.
I also like this store as a global variable thing. If you need like a reference to that particular node and you want to do something to it, this gives you like immediate reference under this temp one.
Mm, okay.
So instead of having to do like document.query selector and then searching for this, a class or something to grab this node by, you can just right click, store as global variable, and there you have it right here as temp2.
That's cool. I've never seen that. I feel like this is like a publicly broadcasted class on Svelte just for me. Like that's the vibe. I'm learning a whole bunch. No, this is awesome. I haven't used the global variable feature now.
Oh yeah, that comes in super handy. So counter dots felt okay. So we see the boundaries right here. Um, I guess this is like where the code is. So count display count is equal to spring.
Wonder if is Spring like a built-in method or is it something that was written?
Oh, yeah. So it's coming from
Oh, there you go.
Motion. So what is this doing? Oh, okay, I'm guessing that's that animation.
What happens if you comment? Well, no, destroy the whole thing. I was gonna say if you commented out line 6, yeah, because then it wouldn't. The rest of it wouldn't work. Or
Yeah.
actually,
Okay, I think this is an animation library.
yeah.
Let's see what else they got in here. So okay, yeah, it is. Like if you see tween, that means animation.
Tweened. I haven't seen that.
So like if you use like a green sock or any of those animation,
Mm.
like beginning and like the animation that happens between. Let me just kind of show you. So
3JS is on
Anime
my.
JS is
Ooh, okay.
well, it's kind of like Anime JS is like a 2D animation library, and like with these animations, they can play at different speeds. Like let me see if I can find that. Keyframes. So you see out where it says like easing, ease out,
Mm-hmm.
expo. It kind of uses like a graph to determine at like which point in the life cycle, like how fast it's moving. Like ease in, it kind of comes in slowly, then speeds up. Ease out, it goes out quick and then starts slowing down. That's what easing is.
Is it the same as what's built into Java or CSS? Is it similar to that?
Yeah, you can do this all in CSS using CSS animation, but this uses JavaScript, so it's a lot easier to control
Nah, no
like
kidding.
programmatically control stuff. So yeah, you see like easing, linear means everything animates at like the same pace throughout the whole life cycle of the animation. And you see like here is spring.
Nice.
So it kind of like goes fast and bounces back a little bit and then comes back. And yeah, they have like a lot of different animations, but yeah, when you see like the word spring or tween, that's usually to do with animation. Let's take a look at Svelte Motion and see what this is exactly. Animation library for Svelte apps based on frame of motion.
He called it.
Let's see. Motion. Import M from Svelte Motion.
I wonder what the difference is between importing M and motion. Because it looks like two different things there.
Yeah, let me see what M is. M in motion.
M is a letter, Kevin.
What does this M do? Okay. Is that you lose direct access to the DOM element for the M dot button above.
Interesting.
A motion replacement for any DOM element can be generated with this syntax. Okay, so they're putting it in front of they're putting it in front of the element and saying like we want to replace the uh we want to add like this library we want to use this library to animate this component. So m dot h1 that's saying like this particular element is going to use svelte motion to animate. So let's take a look and see if they did that here.
Was that it said something about you lose the direct access to the element? Does that mean you couldn't style it by just doing like H1 and then making all H1s a certain color or something like that, or would you have to do like M dot H1 to style it?
Let's see. I'm thinking. Well, since they say you lose access to the DOM element, I guess you can't like doing it like grab it programmatically with JavaScript anymore.
No.
You lose direct access to the DOM element, e.g., the m dot button above. You can use felt motion tap callback, but you can't
Okay. Yeah.
use on click directive. If you want to access the DOM element to use events, class directive, blah blah blah, you can use the motion component.
Mm, okay.
So I guess one is for like if you just want to animate something quickly and you don't need to access it. But hmm, where are they using that here though? On click, relabel, hidden, spring, display dot count spring, display dot count dot set count. Hmm. I wonder what this dollar sign is.
I was just thinking that.
Let's take a look at that. So yes, I guess yeah, this is how you do the interpolation here. Name, okay.
Nice.
It's covered by blah blah blah. Show an alt attribute. Want to make sure they're accessible to the bar. Blah, blah. Shorthand attributes. It's not uncommon to have an attribute where the name and value are the same, like source is equal to source. Svelte gives us a convenient shorthand for these cases. Okay, that makes sense. Add some styles. Okay, style component. Importantly, these rules are scoped to the component. You won't accidentally change the style of P elements elsewhere in your app. We'll see in the next step.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, I love the fact that it has built-in nested CSS. I know with React, you got to kind of work around that or try to install some third-party library to get that out of the box. But
Yeah, I just use modules, but still,
right,
it's like a bunch of extra steps to get the same effect essentially.
exactly.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
in Vue, you have to. I mean, you can get the same thing out of Vue, but it's not the default. You have to add the scoped. I guess it would be a property to the style tag within
Mhm.
the Vue file. So it gives you the option, but I guess it's the default for Svelte.
Yeah, Angular is pretty much the same as this. It has it kind of built in by default. Like you get to on a component, you get to specify which style sheets you want to bring in, and they also have like this styles.css, which is like a global CSS file if you need global styles.
Yeah. Which honestly, outside of the context of global styles, it makes me wonder why React allows for styles specifically for one component to affect others.
Yeah, I guess they just like since they just wanted to be a view library, they didn't really think about things in terms of a cohesive framework. I'm sure Next.js? I'm sure they
Yeah, they use
probably.
a lot of modules in Next. I've
Hmm.
used it here and
What,
there.
what do you think about Next.js?
I like it. So Initially, it was kind of frustrating because I was still pretty green. I was decent with React at the time, so I figured I could, step it up by learning Next. But the image component, it took me like a week just to get it to work the way I wanted it to. But it's more performant. Um, Specifically, the image component alone is more performant. It's responsive, and you don't have to really put a whole lot of effort into making it do these things. Whereas if you just used vanilla React, which is just funny to say in my opinion, but if you just used React by itself, you would have to manually make it performant or adjust the settings to make it performant. Um, like the thing that threw me off was like the concept of like a whitelist for your image tag. Like if
Mhm.
you're doing like I guess like a URL, an external URL, you have to whitelist the URL before you can use it on your next app. I guess it makes sense now that I say it out loud because it is rendered on the server side. So I
Right.
guess it could
Like a
affect your
security
server
thing.
if you didn't have it whitelisted. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Next.js, that's one of those SSR frameworks, ain't it?
Hmm.
Like it renders the stuff on the server, then kicks out the result to the front end.
That's correct.
Let's
From what
see.
little I know.
Says not only keeps the DOM in sync with your application variable as shown in the previous section, it can also keep variables in sync with each other using reactive declarations. They look like this. So I guess it's some kind of
Mm,
binding.
yeah.
So I guess if you change count, this double variable automatically updates. Yeah, rerun this code whenever any of the reference values change. Okay, I got it. So let's try this out. Um, let's make another variable. Set it to 4, and let's see. Double equals 0. See this double is equal to count times 2. See displays.
Do you usually keep your dev tools popped out like that?
Yeah, because a lot of times I'm usually just working on one screen, but
Yeah.
and I don't really like where it's like half. I can only see half the browser and then half this. I should be working on either widescreen monitor or like two screens, but uh, I usually just work off the laptop.
Honestly, if you're comfortable with working on the laptop, like someone who's very smart told me that if you don't have a method or a way of working that works for you on just your laptop, then you're kind of screwing yourself because if you're relying on external tools or external hardware, like monitors in this case, then I mean, what happens if you're, on a trip or something and you need to log in and make a change real quick? I mean, your whole way of things is out the window and you have to, still get work done. So it's gonna be a lot slower.
Right. The
But in
cool
saying
thing
that,
is,
go ahead.
oh yeah, no, the cool thing is you can buy like external monitors, which is pretty small. I actually have one here, but it's just not hooked up.
Have you seen the ones that like attach to the laptop and they just kind of fold out?
No, no, I haven't seen that. That sounds really cool.
They're really expensive, so it's going to be something that just sounds cool for a while for me.
How much?
I mean,
Right,
we're talking like the one I saw that I really liked was like $1,000, and in the grand scheme of things, $1,000 is something that I can get my hands on. I mean, I'm a
right.
developer. In a matter of time, I'll I'll be making enough to justify that. But in the meantime, $1,000 for something I could easily spend half the money on and get the same, if not a better result. It just, I don't know. It seems like a novelty.
Right. It's like you want to spend $1,000 on that, it's like you can get a like a 55-inch TV and just put stuff on there for that
Oh
price.
yeah, now we're talking.
So on click, I guess like initially it doesn't seem that it updated this double method, but I guess once I
Hmm.
change this, then this is gonna update in response. So let's just add like an on click to this right here. Actually, let me change this to a button. On click. Okay. So just passing it an arrow function.
This is astonishingly similar to Vue. It's like a hybrid between React and Vue.
Right. Yeah, all of these front end frameworks, they're really similar. So if you know one, you could just pick up the other. Like you just got to kind of learn slightly different syntax.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, this is updating this, but this isn't updating in response. So let's see, what are we missing here? Double is equal to, oh, okay. I'm not pointing to the right variable. There we go.
There
Yeah,
you
there we
go.
go.
Nice.
Okay, so that's how you have in Angular. This is pretty much called one-way binding. Like,
Hmm.
are you familiar with one-way binding?
Yeah. So Vue does one-way bind, or no, I was talking about data flow earlier. Never mind. One-way binding. No, not familiar.
Okay, so like one-way binding is one variable watches the other, and it changes in reaction when like the watched variable changes. So, for example, if just count two changes, then double is going to change in response. Um, Now, two-way binding is like they both change in response to each other. So, like if double changes, then just count two variables going to change, and vice versa. Whereas with one-way binding, like double would change if count two changes, but if double changes, count two doesn't change in response to that.
Right.
So yeah, two-way binding is like both of the variables are watching each other and changing in response.
That's what
Where
React does, correct?
React does one way by default. How React does allow for like parents and child to communicate between each other is parent to child. You pass down the function via props. Um, Whereas like where parent to child is actually through the props, and then child to parent is the function is passed through the props, and
Hmm.
you pass a reference inside of that function to some parent variable, and that function gets called and the parent variable gets updated. So React is actually like a one-way flow, but you can communicate back up to the parent.
That's kind of what I was getting at earlier with Vue. It's like you can do that as well, but it's like you have to not only pass the function as described with React, but you have to also do you have to use like the emit method to
Yeah,
explicitly pass from child or the component to the parent. So it's like
yeah,
everything you do is like very, it has to be intentional.
exactly.
Can't,
Angular is like that. It's like
is it? Okay.
yeah, you have to annotate your inputs with a add input annotation, or outputs with add output, and then you emit, like if the parent wants to get updates from the child, it has to watch for a certain event, and the child emits that event, and once it does, the parent catches it and runs a function in response.
Hmm, there you go.
So let's see. So we know how to do one-way binding.
Gonna reverse
Uh,
a binary tree next.
yeah, I haven't really did too much of that data structures and algorithm stuff. How about you?
I did some code wars. I didn't reverse a binary tree. I'll tell you that much.
Uh,
But it was more of like if you had like get rid of all the white space after the letter S. Something like that. It would like that would be the problem. I did like 200 of those, and then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get a job if I'm just doing this and no one knows me, kind of thing. So that's when I kind of stopped doing it. But I think it's kind of like calculus for engineers. Like it helps you think about a problem, and it like trains your brain to think a certain way. Not
Mhm.
that engineers are using calculus every day, but it like what an engineering professor taught me, like a mechanical engineering professor taught me, is like they complain, these kids that get jobs, they complain that they don't use the math that they learned in school, but what they don't realize is that the math changed their brain in a way to make the work easier, or the other way of looking at it, to make them more equipped or better equipped to handle the work. So I think the DSA stuff, I think, does something similar, and in some ways, it is applicable
Yeah,
because
yeah,
regex is impossible to debug. So there's that.
yeah. Data structures and algorithms are pretty much fundamental computer science. If you want to kind of understand real performance, you have to learn that stuff, how to efficiently structure data and then run, the correct algorithm on it. Um,
Time
you know,
complexity and all that fun stuff.
yeah, like that really comes into play when you're dealing with huge data sets, which a lot of times on the front end, we're not really doing that. We're just kind of like manipulating visual elements. But say if you had like a list of a million items, and you need to find one particular item out of that list, that's where like data structures and algorithms really come into play. Like, how do you efficiently find that one item? You don't want to go through each single item. What if it's at the end of the array? You know what I mean?
Yeah, all those
So,
sorting algorithms, man. I've seen Clement Miliscu. I'm probably messing his last name up. He does algo experts, but one of the projects that he claimed got him into Google was like this visual algorithm sorting. It was like a sorting visualizer, sorting algorithm
mhm.
visualizer, and it's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie. But like I guess just like understanding data and how it works, and like sorting data, dealing with stuff like that, versus like now my header is red. Would you like to see it in green? Like there are levels to it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, like mathematics and data structures and algorithms. That's there if you really want to advance your career. If you kind of want to distinguish yourself, and you don't want to just be like a crud application kind of engineer.
Yeah, I
So,
heard that.
so yeah, I think stuff like maybe like learning 3JS, that kind of stuff is really the future, because I know we're moving more towards interactive applications. Like, instead of you just going to a web page and clicking on flat stuff, like
Hmm.
you're going into almost a mini world, for example.
Yeah, where the logo is kind of like a glassmorphic blob type thing, and you mouse over it and it moves like water, stuff like that. I think the
Hmm.
average consumer's computer is going to have to become a little bit more powerful because, I mean, granted, I'm using a 10-year-old Mac, so I'm kind of the squeaky wheel that will get the grease, I guess. But like when I'm using like I think his name is Bruno Simone. He has a 3JS portfolio site, and it's absolutely stunning. But like my computer overheats, or it doesn't overheat. It just sounds like it's about to take off for Dulles Airport, something like that. But um, yeah,
Are you playing?
if there's a library that could optimize like the WebGL green socket stuff in the browser, that maybe use less CPU power, I think that would be a huge opportunity. Uh, but
Are you planning on getting like a new computer anytime soon, or are you just kind of gonna rock with what you got?
so I've thought about this for the past few years. And it's like I have the money to do it, but I also really don't like the throwaway culture we have in this country.
Mhm.
Like everything is like it's. I mean, I used to be in sales in a past life, and it was like we encourage people to like get rid of things that half work just to get the newest thing, and that it's kind of sickening. So I'm probably
Yeah.
just going to keep this thing in clamshell mode, get a monitor, get a keyboard and a mouse, and then just rock it until the wheels fall off. Despite the fact that it has 128 gigs of storage, which is pretty frustrating. But I also have a 2 terabyte hard drive. So it's really I'm just gonna use its guts and then have external. Basically, the opposite of what I told you. It's like, yeah, you should use your laptop as is, or else you won't have a good workflow on the road. But this thing is always going to be at home, so I'm just going to get external everything so that I can still use its guts. I just want to use it until the wheels fall off. So, short answer: in the future, yes, but I will be sticking to this dinosaur of a laptop for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you might as well, man. Especially with this economy going the way it is, you don't want to just be throwing money down the drain.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's a good point. That's a much more applicable, realistic point um, than just not wanting to be a part of consumerism, which is somewhat related. But yeah, no, I mean it still works. I just it fell off my bed, so it's like like a almost 4 foot drop, and then
No, man.
half my keys don't work, so I have to use the accessibility keyboard if I'm doing something on here without the keyboard, like an external keyboard. But it's whatever. It's not the biggest deal. Could be worse.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's a good stopping point for that at least. What do you think?
I think I'm actually going to take some time to learn Svelte, not just because there's a team at Capital One that uses Svelte, and I've been talking to the hiring manager, just to pick his brain. This is going a while back. But it's like he was talking about Svelte, and he was like, "Yeah, it does this and that," and then he was trying to put it in terms that I would understand, being at the time an aspiring developer. He was relating it to React, but he said that his team uses React and Svelte as well. So obviously, if it contends with React, it's worth considering. And I already know Vue, and to your point, like all these frameworks, they're more or less like they're really like the Venn diagram is like really, really close on all of them. There are a few differences, obviously syntax and data
Hmm.
binding and reactivity, state management, all that stuff. But I think it's worth learning, especially if I want to in the future become more of a JavaScript developer. Right now, I'm in legacy code with C Sharp, but we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, how do you like C sharp?
So, as a language, like in a vacuum, I like C Sharp, but in because there is a way to do everything that you could possibly want to do. Like stuff I haven't even thought of in Java, like stuff that you won't even experience in web development, is in terms of um, like reflection. I don't know if you can do reflection in JavaScript. I imagine there's a way to do it, but like all these
Mhm.
concepts I've never even heard of, and I've been like messing with JavaScript for like 2 or 3 years now. Like C Sharp has an answer to these problems that I didn't even know existed, and they handle it very, very well. Now, granted, I understand the stigma with C Sharp is that when people were using it in the enterprise days, I mean, not that enterprise has changed or it doesn't exist anymore, but when people were in enterprise using C Sharp and it was more popular, we're talking like 10, 15 years ago, it didn't have 10% of the features it has now. So it was not a very good solution to implement. But to use it now is a different story. The only problem is that I was talking to my mentor the other day about this. It's like you are putting a massive pay cap or like a ceiling on your earnings by getting into these legacy systems, which is, I guess, what C Sharp.net is considered, despite the fact that it is open source and still being updated. So that is something I may consider down the road. But for the time being, I really like the type system, not just types in general, but specifically working with types in C Sharp. Um, and because we were talking about TypeScript earlier, it's like not knowing what type you're working with is a critical misstep. And I guess as a junior developer, it's like forcing me to know exactly what my data is doing and why it's doing it, this, that, and the third. Um, so I would say I'm a fan of the language. I'll have to wait it out and see um, if the pay cut is worth sticking around at this company, because I think I've told you in private that this company is, I mean, it's like a golden egg. And like my manager's amazing. My tech lead slash co-owner of the company is very considerate of, like he has us come to the office like once every blue moon, but it's usually like he went from a week of us coming into the office to just a day. And some people are thinking, oh, you're remote but you have to come into the office, blah blah, what the hell. But there's a reason for everything, I guess. And like this, like he really considers us as people instead of us as objects on a payroll kind of thing. So
Mm.
I really appreciate that. And it's like I really vibe with my manager, and he's super helpful, and he's always willing to give me his time as long as he can, and that it makes sense to offer it, not to enable me, but to help, give me some breadcrumbs. So it's like it's weird, because it's like if this was like if it was Vue on the front end, like Node and Express on the back end, GraphQL, whatever, I wouldn't even consider leaving. But just because I know that there may be a pay ceiling, it's on the back burner.
So yeah,
But
from what I've seen, there's a lot of C# jobs out there.
hmm
I'm not gonna.
absolutely,
I wouldn't say it's legacy. It's just you pretty much have that. Well, it's not as bad as now, but a lot of people were kind of avoiding it before because of the Microsoft lock-in. Like,
yeah. But it's open
mhm,
source now, so it doesn't matter.
yeah. So yeah. So I'm actually working on a project in C# on the front end with Blazor. It's kind of like
hmm
C# version of Angular.
Yeah, we use a
Um,
little Blazor at work.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, yeah, but all these front end frameworks, they pretty much do the same thing. You just got to figure out the slight different way that all the frameworks do that. So
Exactly. Well, in C sharp, you're working with a huge syntax change. So
yeah.
there's certainly some difference relative to just the difference between React and Svelte and all that stuff. But yeah, I think C sharp is worth learning. Like right now, I think I've told you I'm learning Rust. I don't think I've touched it in about a month, just because I'm working on other stuff. Like I'm putting together a hardcore band for when I move back to Richmond in about a month. So it's like I have a lot of interest, but it's like I have to like really focus on what is time sensitive. And because I'm moving up to Richmond soon, moving back to Richmond soon, I need to focus on that. But once I have like our demo set up and we're like rehearsing, then I'll probably go back to working on what I thought was a firmware project, but it's actually an embedded software project with
Mhm.
Rust. I really enjoy Rust, type safe
Like
C
once you
especially.
move back, are you going to be completely remote then, or is it like the other city still within driving distance?
So the other city is Richmond. So that's that's the thing. It's a company out of Richmond. They just really value in-person shadowing, in-person training. Like my first week was in person, and I liked it because I mean, and I know like a lot of people they'll throw a fit, and I think it's like this sense of entitlement to some degree, or maybe your lifestyle, not you, but a person's lifestyle can't really afford in-person anything. Um, but being able to meet your coworkers in person, I value that. Moving forward, if I go to another company and I never meet my coworkers in person, um, you know, it won't be the worst thing, I guess. But
Hmm.
moving to Richmond, it'll be like a 20-minute drive just to go into the office. So if I stay with this company long enough to become someone's direct report, then I'll have to come in for their training week. But I won't mind that because I love the city, and I'll be able to get to another part of the city that I normally wouldn't go to. For example,
Mhm.
like I am very chatty, especially on a podcast, because I know like dead space is like every time like there's dead air on a podcast. A new NFT drops or something like that, but like I'm definitely an introvert at heart, so forcing me to go to another side of the city is not the worst thing for me. So I guess I could just justify it, and that's I just it doesn't really bother me. Richmond is also kind of like a very it's got like enterprise culture throughout
Mhm.
it. I mean, except for like this one company I can think of, which is a startup. Enterprise culture is very pervasive. So there's still the you know dress shoes, slacks, and a button-down shirt, even though we're developers type attitude about it. But I wear a t-shirt, so they can't make me, Kevin. They can't make me wear the collared shirt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of find like the one advantage of going in person is like you do make stronger connections with your coworkers, whereas like with remote, once you turn off your computer, it's like, I don't, is there any point of reaching out because they're in a completely different part of the country, possibly? Like,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like, you kind of actually form relationships and say, hey, let's go out and go to a restaurant or something, and when you meet your coworkers in person.
It'd be a good excuse to like say if you got like a coworker, you're in Texas, I want to say you got a coworker in Vancouver or something. Vancouver is a great place to go during the spring, from what I hear, and the summer. So if you got a coworker there, that'd be a great excuse to, you know, do a little work vacation, meet them, and if they're cool enough, they may, have you for like a co-working and then drinks afterwards. I think we're gonna see like right now we're still in the infant or embryonic stages of mainstream remote work. Like I have this one friend growing up, his neighbor had his entire company go remote in the late 90s. So we're
Mm,
talking like, the little chip you throw in your computer. It was before people were even using that. It was like they had to have like this hunkin' anyway. So remote work has existed as of, for his company at least for almost 3 decades, I guess. But we're still figuring out culturally how we can manage people, which is another way of saying some people really only know how to manage if they have a tight grip around someone. In
yeah,
my opinion, I'm a little cynical when it comes to that. Like for example, I told my manager, it's like, hey man, I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't figure out this one problem. I played Super Smash Brothers Melee for 5 minutes, played guitar for 15, and then the solution came to mind, and I fixed it. Otherwise, I would have been banging my head for another 30 minutes and still gotten nowhere. So I actually saved the company money and billable hours by playing video games and playing guitar. So, and he
yeah,
said, I can't argue with that.
yeah,
So for that, and again, going back to like, how do I like C sharp? It's like I really like the language, but in it's like I like the company, and it's like I don't want to leave being able to do that and talk about that with my manager. So
yeah.
again, if unless there's like this pay ceiling, I will stick with C sharp and that company for forever.
Yeah, we actually have a couple of comments. David Colasar, I love Kevin Miller's content. Thanks for tuning in, David. Daniel, yeah, he's commenting on the binding stuff, and then we have Olan Rewaju Erilomo. I'm a front end dev with knowledge in React, Next.js, and JavaScript. I'm really looking to deepen my experience and spread into other stacks. I appreciate your opinion on how I should approach this. So yeah, I'll take a crack at this, and if you want to add on to it, yeah, feel free. I would say just focus on really becoming proficient in that one framework before you jump to the other ones, because it's better to be like a master at one as opposed to kind of like mediocre at three or four. React is the most popular front end framework right now, so I'll say get really good at that, and you're gonna have a ton of opportunities, and then once you've done React for about 3 years, then you could jump into something like Angular or Vue, and you're gonna find like we just mentioned, they're all like pretty similar to each other.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment of there's a saying it's better to be a master of one than a master of none kind of thing. Um, Yeah, because a pitfall that a lot of developers I notice are falling into right now, they go to a JavaScript boot camp and then they find out that a lot of fintech companies are they're like reviving Java, and it's the strangest thing. So they're learning Java and it's like, let's get good with JavaScript and then we can worry about the verbose monstrosity of Java. Which I've spent like a little time, because I fell into the same trap, and that's why I'm mentioning it. I'm not I'm not above uh, blame is the word I'm looking for. Um, but there has to be a reason why you're learning something in this market. Like you can't really afford to just learn something just because, unless, and I would say there are two exceptions to what I just said. One, you shouldn't ever not want to learn something, because like that's the whole point of this career. It's like
Mhm.
you're always learning something. So if you want to learn something, do it. If someone's telling you shouldn't learn something, they better have a good reason. And then I already forgot my second point, but there you have it.
Yeah. I think especially as a junior, is it's hard to learn multiple frameworks because all the context switching is going to slow you down. Like you really need to be able to, like, if you pick a course, you need to be able to focus on the course. Because like something that would slow me down is, okay, I'm learning two or three different things, and then I do a little bit of this course, jump over here, do a little bit of that course, and I'm not really making progress as fast as I want because all my learning is spread so thin. So I just end up stopping. Like I just stopped doing all the courses. So
Exactly. And would you rather be able to do the FizzBuzz problem in 5 languages, or build an application and be marketable in one?
exactly.
I mean, what are your goals? Do you want a job, or do you want to be a hobby coder? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
again, it's like what I was saying earlier. It's like the only reason why you shouldn't learn something is, or it's like if someone tells you shouldn't learn something, it should be for a reason. And if you don't know your why, then you should probably learn that why. But yeah, comes down to efficiency of your time, especially in this market. I mean, you can always do something on the weekends. Like if my friend here that I have locally, he wants to. He told me explicitly he wants to be a Java developer. If he wants to do that, I don't know what kind of entry level jobs they have for Java developers. I'd be impressed personally. Kevin, maybe you can shed some light on that, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
I
learn
think
on the
it's,
weekend.
yeah. I don't know, like Java, them older, really mature languages. It's hard to break in
Such a
because they
nice
already
way of
got,
putting it.
they already got guys with 10 years of experience. So you're going up against them versus like, okay, like what really helped me make progress so quickly in my career was when I got in, we were using Angular 2 when it was in beta. So
Mm,
when I went to my next job, even though I was only in the industry for like a year, I had just as much as experience as anyone else using this technology.
mm.
And I got really good at it. So even though I only had like 1 year of experience, I became kind of like a go-to resource because I really knew this brand new technology. And even guys with like 5 years experience, 6 years experience, they would come to me with some of the problems because, I really knew this particular technology. So that's kind of how you can distinguish yourself. Take like a hot emerging technology and be good at that.
Yeah, like
So you're not,
Astro.
you don't want to compete against guys with like 10 years of experience in something that it makes it like really difficult.
I guess React's being the exception to that, because React has officially been out for 10 years. So now HR can say that they are requiring 10 years of experience, and it's not a joke. So,
So yeah, I think it, like learning Svelte, that would be good for somebody who want to kind of distinguish themselves and not go into the React pile. There's so many React developers now. It's like maybe I can get a job in that because I have so many years of experience, but somebody who's just starting, it's going to be hard when guys with 8 years of experience, 7 years of experience are in the resume pile.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, see what your region likes to use. See, I mean, network. I'm always talking about networking, but it's like in Richmond, we have a lot of .NET. We have some Angular. We have React. Um, that's really about it. So it's like I know React, and I'm being taught C# at work, so I've got my region covered. And I think it's important to consider that, especially with I mean, everyone wants a remote role. My role is remote, but it's out of my locality, out of my region. So go to if you've done a MERN stack boot camp, that's great. But if all you have is mean or Nevin, which would be view. We'll have to come up with something else for view. Talk to uh, the creator of view and see what we should call the view stack. But yeah, figure out what people are using at your local companies, and really
Mhm.
hone in on that. If the goal is to get a job.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel like it is good for junior developers to go in because it's a lot harder for somebody to teach them if they're remote. Like if somebody runs up against a problem, it's a lot easier for me to come up to their computer and say, "Hey, show me what's going on. Debug it like this. Let's go through the step by step." I mean, you can use remote tools like remote viewing, but it's a little more frustrating when you
Okay.
have to tell them step by step, like, hey, flip to the browser, do this,
Yeah.
do this. Where I could just literally grab their mouse and go through. But there is remote control software as well. But I don't know, for some reason, in person
It's so
seems better.
slow.
Yeah.
I agree. Like in person, like has its value. I think there's like this weird stigma to like talk about um, the value of in person anything in our world because we fought for so many years to get remote work, and now people are talking about its benefits. But I'm not bootlicking. I love remote work, and no one is going to make me
Yeah.
go back. So let me just say
Yeah.
that.
You can't beat
But
that flexibility.
in person is definitely has its value, and honestly, in this market, I would have taken an in person role anywhere. I would have moved anywhere to get an in person role. I just I just got lucky back in December. So
Yeah, I think when you're first getting in, man, you gotta kind of take whatever, you can't really be picky. You just, even if your salary isn't super high, get in, get the experience, and then
exactly.
you can negotiate later.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end this one on. Did you have any closing thoughts?
Um, I'm so it's funny. I was gonna take a look at 3JS, but I'm probably gonna learn a little bit of Svelte. Just try to do like a basic, form submission in Svelte. See how that works because forms are very important, especially in the real world where everything is user input and you're taking that data and moving it somewhere. See if I can figure out how to do that. Um, But no, I mean, again, thank you for having me. And I feel like this has just been a publicly broadcasted lesson on how to learn a framework specifically for me. I feel very spoiled being here. So thank you again for having me.
Oh man, definitely appreciate you for tuning in, man. What you can do is mix the two, like use Svelte to serve a 3JS application, and uh,
Yeah, that's true.
instead of doing a regular way of filling out a form, they can fill it out by interacting in 3JS. Just something different. I find like that's what keeps me interested. Like making the same form based applications over and over, it just gets really boring. So
I was gonna say you're at that point in your career where it's like you've done it 1,000 times. That's where my mentor's at, and it's like for me, I'm just not there yet. I'm still like, okay, I can do this.
yeah, right, yeah.
So yeah, but I'll give that a shot. I'll
Yeah,
give that a
let,
shot.
let, let me know how it goes, man. And we definitely have to get you back soon so you kind of talk about how you use networking to get your first job. Because I know a lot of people are having trouble with that right now.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I do feel like I got lucky, but it was like a combination of opportunity and luck at the same time. So, or opportunity is the crossroads of luck and hard work. So
Yeah, exactly.
there's that. But yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll